Hi, and welcome to Engineering Essentials AutoCAD Instruction. In this episode, I will be talking about associativity and annotative objects. If an object has associativity, that means that it is associated and will change with the geometry that it is attached to. On the other hand, an annotative object will change its size based on the current viewport scale. Let's start by talking about associativity. Most of the dimensions that you can see here are associated with the geometry that they measure. That means if I change the size of the part, the value of the dimension will change. Take note of the 30 millimeter dimension right here, the 12 millimeter diameter dimension here, and the 5 by 5 millimeter chamfered dimension here. Now I'm going to scale the part by a factor of 2. Notice how the dimensions change. So you'll notice that the 30 millimeter dimension has doubled. The 12 diameter dimension has doubled, but the chamfered dimension did not change. So the 30 millimeter dimension and the 12 millimeter dimension, they were associated with the geometry and doubled when the geometry was doubled. But the chamfered dimension was not associative. So that's associativity. All right, so let's move on to annotative objects. So how do we know if an object is annotative? All right, so before we do that, let's undo the scale. So an object is annotative if when you hover over it, you see the annotative symbol. So you can see it looks like kind of a funky little triangle. So the 70 millimeter dimension is annotative. The 27-degree angle is annotative. Even the 5 by 5 chamfered dimension is annotative. Now we really can't appreciate how annotative objects work until we're in layout space. So let's go ahead and get in layout space. I'm going to adjust my viewport size and get into a 1-to-1 scale. All right. So if we print our drawing right now, our drawing text will be 3 millimeters because that's what I set it at when I created the dimensions. But you'll notice that the part is kind of small. If I wanted to really get the full potential out of my paper, I would want to maybe print this at double size. So I would want to print it at a 2-to-1 scale. But does that mean that my text would then print at 6 millimeters? Well, not if we have annotative objects, right? Because really our goal is to always have our text print out at 3 millimeters. So that's the beauty of annotative objects. So let's go ahead and change our scale to 2-to-1, which is really what we want. So, our dimensions disappeared. What happened? Well, what happened is that annotative objects are supported by a certain scale, and I have only told my dimensions to be supported by a 1-to-1 scale. I didn't say that they support a 2-to-1 scale. That's no problem. We can go and say, they can support a 2-to-1 scale. But for now, let's go ahead and click on this little Show Annotation Objects icon, and they'll show even though they don't support that scale. Okay. Now, if I went ahead and printed now, they would print at 6 millimeters. But I want to go ahead and have them support this scale. So I'm going to go ahead and double click inside my viewport and click on this 70 millimeter, get into the Annotate tab and say add current scale. So I'm telling the computer go ahead and have it support this scale. And what happened? The 70 millimeter dimension changed size. So now that dimension would print at 3 millimeters. All the other ones would print at 6. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select all of the ones, all the other ones, and have them support this current scale. So I'll pan around so I can get all of them. Alright, did I get all of them? Yes. Alright, so now I'll go ahead and get back into layout space, select my viewport. I'm going to switch back and forth between a 1:1 and a 2:1. Now look what happens to the dimensions. They will change size. They are automatically adjusting themselves so that when I print, they will print at 3 millimeters. So that's kind of cool. Alright, so how does AutoCAD do this? Well, every time you add a support scale to a dimension, it saves that in its memory. So you don't want to add too many because that just increases the file size. You just want to add as many as you need. Alright, so that's associativity and annotative objects. So I hope this cleared those subjects up, and I will see you in the next episode.